Hi. So everyone watching this video belongs to our microculture. We all classify in the microculture based on things like religion, region, or ethnicity. We can be classed based on physical traits such as skin color, height, and hair. I personally belong to a microculture that's based on hair. I belong to the dread community. Dreadheads are considered a microculture because of two things. One, not everyone has dreads. In fact, it'd be difficult to obtain dreads depending on your hair type. And two, during the 1970s in America, dreadlocks gained popularity among hippie groups and were used as a form of counterculture. And what I mean by counterculture is a counterculture is a cultures is a culture that exists solely to oppose the mainstream culture. So dreadlocks were used in the hippie movement as a form of defiance or rebellion to establishment and stuff like that. Dreads kind of gave like this natural appearance. And depending on where you are, you can get different treatment because of your dreads. Let's say you're in a more suburban area where dreads aren't as popular, you'll people be more fascinated by your hair and they'll want to touch it. I know personally people don't like it when people other people touch their hair, but I don't really care. I don't really mind. It's kind of flattering a little bit. But there's not always positives to it. There's also negatives. Some people will treat you differently. They'll think like your hair is dirty because it is true. Well, it's somewhat true that when you're first getting your dress started, depending on what method you use, you can't really wash your hair. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So some things that the dreadheads, we have our own language, we have our own behavior. Before I mentioned, depending on the method that you use, will determine whether or not you washed your hair. So, in the dreadhead community, we have these things called starter locks or baby locks, and basically, what that means is your dreads aren't like actual mature dreads yet. They're still like small little knobs. And if you went to salon and got it twisted formally, then you can't really wash your hair because if water gets on your head, then your your twist or your starter locks will untwist, and then you'll have to retwist them again. And it's just a waste of like time and money because getting dreads can be expensive. I pay about like $75 including tip to get my hair retwisted. But you can get your in the dread community, you can get your dreads with all different types of ways. One behavior people One thing people do is they freeform their hair. So instead of getting it twisted by like a professional, what they do is they just they just let their hair do their own thing. They don't cut it. They just let it mat up and just do its own thing. Because what happens is what dreads really are, they're like it's tangled hair basically. And if you just let your hair just do its own thing, if you wash it, washing your hair creates like frizz and it makes it all tangled. So if you just neglect it and just let it do its own thing, then eventually you'll form dreads. And that's what people mean when they say freeform. Now, there's debate whether or not semi freeform counts as freeform, and what semi freeform is basically like you get your hair twisted at first, but then you just let your hair do its own thing after that. So like if I were to get my hair twisted, but then after that I would stop twisting it, I just let my hair grow, that would be semi freeform. And that's kind of what I did for my hair. I started with a dread sponge, and a dread sponge is basically a sponge with holes in it, and you just rub it on like your flat head, and then eventually it'll form twists, and that's what I did at first. I didn't really intend for my hair to become dreaded, but after a while, just sponging it, it just dreaded up. And then like it was kind of funny because half my head was dreaded and the other half was like not dreaded. So one half had dreads and the other half had flat, and that went on that way for like about a year or so. I mean, eventually the entirety of my head did form dreads, but like it was really free form. It was all over the place. It wasn't. It didn't have like a formal professional look. It was free form. Um, Also, I have like the high top dread hairstyle, and what that means in the community is my head isn't fully dreaded. It's like part of my head is like shaved, and only the very top of my head has dreads, hence high top. But yeah, that's just some of the behaviors and communication patterns that we use. Some of the language we developed over time. Mm. So the next thing is I just have various fun facts about dreads. Did you know that the Spartan hoplites wore dreads as part of their battle dress? So like dreads were part of their battle uniform. Like dreads were part of the culture. When they would go to fight off in wars, their hair was dreaded. It was part of them. It's kind of a sign of intimidation, and that kind of leads me to my next fact. In certain Rastafari movements, locks are symbolic of the Lion of Judah, and they give the appearance of authority or power. So that kind of ties into the Spartans and how they wore their dress as part of their battle dress or their battle uniform. And notice how I said Spartans. You may think to yourself, Spartans, like, damn, that's really old, and it is really old. That brings me to like my third fact. Dreads have been seen all throughout human history, really. They were most notably first seen in India. I don't know the exact year, but the Indians were the first people to, I guess, be seen using dreads. I mean, I'm sure maybe other cultures were doing it too at the time, but they're just most notably the first people to start doing it. But yeah, dreads were seen all throughout history. Egyptians had them, as I mentioned before. The Greeks had them. Dreads aren't really a new thing. This is especially true since dreads happen naturally, as I mentioned with freeform. If you just let your dreads do their own thing, so it makes sense that dreads are seen throughout human history. It's not like a man-made, manufactured thing. Your hair just naturally dreads, and dreads can be personalized using like beads and cuffs. Like this right here, this is like a cuff that has like a bunch of patterns and stuff on it. There are other types of dread customization items. You have like these little circular beads that you just thread it right through your hair, or you just thread your hair right through it and it just goes up on your dreads, and it's really cool. So my fifth and final fact is dreads are really popular amongst rappers, actually. Some of the most popular rappers like Lil Uzi Vert, T Grizzly, and Lil Wayne have dreads, especially Lil Uzi Vert. His dreads are pretty unique in the sense that they're really colorful. Like if you look at his dreads, they have a bunch of colors in it. It's really cool, actually. I mean, it kind of backfires because if you don't like take care of the color, then it can make your dreads look really faded. But besides that, it's really cool. So today in this video, I've shown you the various aspects of dread culture and why dreads are considered a microculture, and I've shared with you the various dread language that we use and the behaviors we do. And I've also shown you 5 fun facts about dreads. So I think no matter what culture you belong to, dreads look good on everyone, so you should take the plunge and get your hair twisted. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Good night.